Welcome back to Perkins Pipes. Got a little elegant black pipe that I made from a blank, Mr. Broggs blanks that I got from Amazon. And we're going to be smoking that one for this episode. Seemed appropriate to do something slightly elegant given the topic. So let me get this lighted and we'll have a chat. So I've been so pleased. It's been really nice to have comments from people who are starting to follow the channel, both on YouTube and on the Pipe Cottage Social, in the group that I started there called The Finer Things. I do invite you to subscribe to this channel here on YouTube, and also check us out over at Pipe Cottage Social, that app. And I wanted to share with you some comments that some people have been making. So let me bring those up on the screen and we'll share those with you. So someone named Rick commented on one of the videos I had done when we were hiking at Clifty Falls State Park. And he says, "Enjoy your videos, Steve. The hikes and the one on the Iliad were my favorites." Then Daniel posted, he was really talking about the same video, because in that I talked about the Iliad translation by Alexander Pope. And he said, "Alexander Pope is the GOAT. We use his translations in our classical homeschooling." And then finally, a fellow named Rick Coffee 5309, he says, "I have a copy of the Odyssey, but after listening to you speak of this book," again, I'm talking about Pope's translation of the Iliad, "I have added it to my books to read list. I encourage you to do a review of other favorite books you enjoy." So that's what this episode is about. It's about sharing some more of some books that I enjoy, but particularly focusing on that poet Alexander Pope. Now, if you're not familiar with Pope, he lived from 1688 to 1744, British poet. And I want to share with you a couple of books that are absolute favorites of mine. This is called Pope's Complete Poems Students Cambridge Edition. And I found this in a used bookstore in Bloomington, Indiana, many years ago. It was originally published in 1903. And at that time, not 1903, but the time when I bought this book, there was a used bookstore in Bloomington on 3rd Street. It's called Behind the Lines. It's not there anymore. And I went in, and as I always do when I go to a bookstore, I always look for the poetry section, and I always look for books by Alexander Pope. I've got a lot of Pope's poems. In fact, I've got all of his poems in various editions. But it doesn't stop me from always looking for Pope when I go to a bookstore. Anyhow, years ago, I found this, and what was so exciting was, because the book didn't have really any notes to it, it had more room for poems, and it actually had Pope's Iliad. So it was really cool, because it was the first time that I actually got a copy of Pope's Iliad. In that other poem, or in that other video I was showing you, I had a very nice edition that was given to me from a friend. But anyhow, I just wanted to share that one with you because it was the first one that I had that had the Iliad in it. Now, this one, the Poems of Alexander Pope, edited by John Butt, wonderful edition. In fact, this is one of my favorite books, actually. I love the size of this, and of course I love Alexander Pope's poetry. And I just want to share a few little bits of it, a few bits of his poetry from it. And, if you know Pope, maybe you like him, maybe you don't. Maybe this will give you another chance to rethink Pope. If you don't know Alexander Pope, maybe this will be a good introduction, and you'll say, hey, I want to check out some of his stuff on my own. I first became aware of Pope in senior English in high school. Class we used to call Brit Lit, because it's British literature. And I was valedictorian in my senior class. And when I gave my valedictory address, I opened it with a bit from Pope's essay on criticism. And I still remember those lines. He said, so pleased at first the towering Alps we try, mount o'er the vales and seem to tread the sky. The eternal snows appear already past, and the first clouds and mountains seem the last. But those attained we tremble to survey the growing labors of the lengthened way. The increasing prospect tires our wandering eyes. Hills peep o'er hills, and Alps on Alps arise. And that seemed like a good way to begin a valedictory address. We thought we had achieved the summit of the mountains as seniors in high school, but then we get to the top and we realize there is so much more to go. Now here is a bit from a poem he wrote in, written in 1714. The title is Epistle to Miss Blount on her leaving the town after the coronation. There were two sisters, Martha and Teresa Blount, that were good friends of Alexander Pope, and he particularly liked one of them a little bit romantically. And he was talking about her leaving London after the coronation and how sad it was for her to leave. And he talks about himself standing in the traffic and the hustle and bustle of the city. And he's kind of imagining what it's like, to see her leave. And he says, so when your slave at some dear idle time, not plagued with headaches or the want of rhyme, stands in the streets abstracted from the crew, and while he seems to study, thinks of you. He's talking about himself here, he's thinking about her. Just when his fancy points your sprightly eyes, or sees the blush of soft Parthenia rise, gay pats my shoulder, and you vanish quite. Streets, chairs, and coxcombs rush upon my sight. Vexed to be still in town, I knit my brow, look sour, and hum a tune, as you may now. John Gay was a friend of his, and he's talking about, being in the city, and he's seeing all these sights and sounds, and all of a sudden his friend taps him on the shoulder, and he realizes kind of where he is, and I'm still here, and Miss Blount is not. So a little bit sad there for him. Another one wanted to share with you was an epitaph he wrote for Sir Isaac Newton. It was written around 1730. And of course, we all know Sir Isaac Newton. And it's a little 2-line epitaph for Sir Isaac. He says, nature and nature's laws lay hid in night. God said, let Newton be, and all was light. So a neat play on the biblical, God said, let there be light, of course. And talking about the light shed by Newton's scientific ideas. And this one I simply find so funny. I've always loved this one. He sent, this is a little epigram. It says, engraved on the color of a dog, which I sent to His Royal Highness. This was written in 1737. So you can imagine these lines of poetry inscribed on the dog's collar. I am His Highness dog at Kew. Pray tell me, sir, whose dog are you? And that's one of the things Pope's known for, is his wit. He was a particularly witty guy, and some people liked that, some people didn't, even in his own time. And the last little bit I want to share with you is from this really interesting edition of his mock epic poem, The Rape of the Lock, which you can see here. And of course, rape from the Latin verb rapio rapere, which literally means to seize or to take. And he wrote this poem about an event that actually happened. There was a young man, young woman at a party, and to get her attention, the young man slipped up behind her and snipped off a lock of her hair. Well, this caused quite the hubbub and the scandal. And so she was very upset. The two families had a falling out over it. And Alexander Pope wrote this mock epic, really in the style of the Roman epic poet Virgil in his Aeneid. And he writes this wonderful, overblown story about all this action and adventure of this guy who cuts off this girl's hair. And this particular edition has illustrations by the great illustrator Aubrey Beardsley, known for his line and dot ink drawings. Very, very attractive edition there. And I'm just reading a few lines out of this just to give you a sense, again, of some of Pope's style of poetry. That begins, Canto 1 begins, "What dire offense from amorous causes springs? What mighty contest rise from trivial things?" Indeed, mighty contests do rise from trivial things from time to time. He goes on to say, "What strange motive, goddess, could compel a well-bred lord to assault a belle? Or say what stranger cause yet unexplored could make a gentle belle reject a lord?" So he gets into, why would she have rejected him in the first place? Why would he assault by attacking her hair this way? And so I just wanted to share the last little bit here from the actual scene where he cuts off this lock of her hair. And so another woman hands him a little pair of scissors at this party. And so he says, "Just then Clarissa drew with tempting grace a two-edged weapon from her shining case." So here's this woman who brings forth the weapon, the scissors, from her case at a party. Let's start that again. "Just then Clarissa drew with tempting grace a two-edged weapon from her shining case. So ladies in romance assist their knight, present the spear and arm him for the fight." See how he's making it seem like a regular battle, even though it's just a trivial thing about cutting somebody's hair at a card party. He takes the gift with reverence and extends the little engine on his fingers' ends. This just behind Belinda's neck he spread, and o'er the fragrant steams she bends her head. So she's bending down over a cup of coffee, the fragrant steams, and so then her hair is exposed. And this is the part, one of my favorite parts. "The peer now spreads the glittering forefex wide to enclose the lock, now joins it to divide." What I like about that is he uses the Latin word forfex, which is the Latin word for scissors. But then the great line, he now joins it to divide, right? Joining, dividing, those seem opposite. But if you think about it, that's exactly what scissors do. You join them, right? You bring the blades together, you join them in order to divide or to cut something. So a little trip through some of Alexander Pope's poetry. I hope you enjoyed that. Hope that you check out some Alexander Pope. You can find him online anywhere. Of course, his stuff is in the public domain. And as always, we end with the words of Malcolm Guite. "I do these little things in order at last to do nothing." Or as I would say in Latin, Parva ago, ut tandem, nihil agam. Have a wonderful day.